Hey, it's Friday. How about we do some form checks? Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Form Check Friday. We're together again. Thank you to everybody who uploaded video submissions for this week. Looks like we've got another great group and hopefully we'll get through all of them. So let's dive in and see what we need to fix with you guys. As you know, if you've been watching or if you're new to the channel, I haven't seen any of these. This is all off the cuff and it's always a good time. So let's dive into number one. Let's see what we got here. Hey, Paul, was curious to get your feedback on a recent failed attempt at 405 on deadlift. Specifically, I'd like to know why I start shaking when the weight gets heavy. I tried to grind it out as long as I could, but started shaking so bad that the weight got too far out in front of me and I fell forward, thus not completing the pull. Do you know why this happens? Anything I can do to mitigate the shaking? For reference, 46-year-old male, 5'10", 175 pounds. Okay, Dave, thank you. No, I don't know why people shake when they deadlift. I know that it happens. It happens to some lifters. You'll see it a lot of times at powerlifting meets. Some people just shake a lot when they deadlift, and it must be some central nervous system thing that happens. It's not a big deal. You just kind of have to learn to deal with it. So there may be, I think Ripito used to talk about this and I never really got a clear answer. Maybe I think he had a theory, but I forget what it was. So it's a common thing with some lifters. Don't worry about it. And let's just take a look at your pull and we'll see if there's anything going on technique wise. All right, so here we go. All right. I like the stripe. Woo, buddy. Yeah. Let's watch. I mean, it's just going to repeat. Yeah. So your pull looks great. I mean, up to the knee is obviously a failed attempt. So, knees could be pushed out a little more. Hey, buddy, I got Clint right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hi, I'm doing some form checks right now, okay? So we just went out. All right, excuse me, off, come on. All right, let me see if I can pause this thing or if it's just gonna keep playing. So your knees could be pushed out just a little bit more into your elbows. That'll bring a little bit more adductor into the lift. But other than that, it looks good. It's just heavy. So if you're gonna be one of these guys that shakes a lot, it's gonna happen on your limit attempt. So I assume if we went down to like 365, you'd probably pull a set of 5, minimal shaking. I don't really know what to do about it. And I think it's just, if you're gonna fail, yeah. If you're gonna fail, that's probably how you're gonna fail, which is just shaking. The one thing I can tell you mentally to think about that may help is as soon as that bar gets to your knee, you wanna start thinking about popping your hips through, okay? So like you're doing an aggressive hip thrust into the bar. So off the floor, you're focused on pushing against the floor, keeping the bar on the legs, but pushing the floor away from you. It's all quads at that point, like a leg press. Once you get to around the knee, you want to think about aggressively shoving the hips forward, like really hard. And that'll speed the rep up if you switch your focus to that. And it may be enough to sort of pull you through that little sticking point where you start to vibrate. Because it looks like that's where it's happening, is like right above the knee. You just kind of get stuck in no man's land and you're like, and yeah, and the vibration just gets worse and then it goes back down. So try not to get frustrated about it. It's, we all have different ways of failing reps. On the squat, some people tend to go forward all the time. There's a lot of different variations of what happens when you fail. So in your case, you get stuck right around the knee and then you just start shaking and then you kind of like lose control. If you can find a way to speed through that middle point, and I know this is easier said than done, you may have enough sort of momentum on the bar to kind of carry you through that point where you're going to run into trouble. Other than that, I don't really know what to tell you. Let me go back and look at your programming. I've never really been able to fix it. And I haven't heard a good explanation as to why. It's obviously something in the nervous system, just like going crazy with all that effort. 46 years old, 175 pounds. Programming wise, you don't really tell me anything. So I would, maybe if you want me to check your form on the deadlift, I would probably post a lighter video or a video of a lighter set and we can look at your technique, but it looks pretty solid. Like your back looks pretty good. You just have a shaking thing. And, so maybe try, right here, just aggressively throw the hips through and, it might fix it. The other thing you can do is try and gain a little weight. You're 5'10", 175, you're lean, you look good. But if you went up to 185, then you could probably pull 405 without shaking a bunch. Now that means you probably pull 450 and the shake will come back. So don't stress about it. It is what it is, but overall, I think you're doing okay. And if you want me to take a look at another like clean set, then go ahead and post a video next week. Thanks for the submission. Sorry, it's sort of an underwhelming answer, but that's what I know about it. So, all right, Dave, carry on, brother. Let's move on. 290 by 5 squat. I'm 2 weeks into the intermediate A after a vacation layoff. In previous reviews, you had mentioned more of a bounce out of the bottom versus almost a pause, as I was doing, and the correct hand placement with the hand turned slightly to keep the wrist straight. My concern with this set is the thoracic rounding at the end of the set on the way back. I think I'm leaning over enough, but I know that not leaning over enough can cause the issue as the back angle will correct on the way up. I also notice the right hand rolling under the bar at the end of the set. Is this just fatigue or a fatigue issue? Should I ditch the thumb over grip and try thumbs around? I have longer forearms versus humerus. The bar is at my chin in the press. Okay. So I can't get the grip width much narrower without pushing the bar back. Try to reset pinching the shoulder blades and big chest after each rep. Thanks, Paul. Okay, let's take a look and see what we got. All right. So bar placement looks solid. Grip looks pretty narrow. I mean, your musculature is tight. So you've got a nice shelf there is what I mean. That's a good looking rep. Let's watch the back angle. Good. You're staying leaned over on the way up. You're getting leaned over pretty quickly. Knees aren't moving around too much. Good hip drive. Let's see when this rounding starts to happen. Okay. Oh, man. I mean, that was a good set. I don't, if you start to get tired towards the end of the set, that's very normal. And you're going to see, your second rep is usually going to be your best rep, and your last rep is going to be the one where the form kind of starts to break down just because you're tired. So it's not uncommon to lose that upper back tightness a little bit as you go through the set. If I was coaching you, I'm not too worried about this. Now, I do notice that your wrists are, so if you watch your left wrist on the way down here, you're going to see it kind of rock back. And then as you come up, you're going to put it forward again. So over time, that is usually the cause of tendonitis. Not everybody gets tendonitis, but if you get tendonitis, it's because you're flexing and extending this wrist down on the way back. You're like rolling the bar up and down your back, and that pisses off the bicep tendon over time. So if, I think your grip width is pretty good. I mean, you have good flexibility in your shoulders. I know you probably don't feel that way, but this is not bad. You can play around with the thumbs around grip. I switched to that a long time ago, and I have switched a number of my clients to that because there's no risk of getting tendonitis that way. So the argument for thumbs on top is obviously that you have all the weight of the bar on your back and none of it in your wrist. So it's basically safer for the wrist. But that grip undeniably leads to tendonitis in some people. So if you put the thumbs around, you will be able to bring your hands in closer because you are going to let the wrist bend. You cannot keep your wrist straight, nor should you try in a thumbs around grip. So the wrist will be bent. There will be some weight in your, some pressure on your wrist. That's totally normal. What I always tell my guys is give it 3 sessions. The first time you switch to a thumbs around grip, it's going to be annoying and it's going to feel really uncomfortable in your wrists. Like you might feel like your wrists are breaking. After the 3rd session, you'll kind of get the hang of it. The wrist will get used to the pressure and it won't be an issue anymore. So you probably won't like it for 2 sessions, and then the 3rd one, it'll probably feel better. The thing you want to make sure of is you kind of play around with the grip, and the goal is to get as much of the weight of the bar on your back as possible to support that weight on your back, and as little in the wrists as possible. There will be some, but you want to get as little as possible in the wrists, and it takes a little bit of trial and error to kind of figure out where your hands need to be and kind of how to support the weight more on your back than the wrists. You'll get the hang of it. It's totally doable. Like I said, I use this grip all the time. I don't have any problem with my wrists, no more tendonitis issues, and it will allow you to bring your hands in a little closer. Now, with the thumbs on top grip, you can, once you're under the bar, you can adjust the hands in closer. You can kind of walk them in a little bit. You can't really do that with the thumbs around grip. There's just too much friction in there. So you kind of have to commit before you go under to the hand placement. So figure out what finger is on the ring, and as you warm up, bring it in a little closer until it's real tight when you go under the bar. So play around with it. It may help you keep that upper back arched a little bit better towards the end. The other thing to do is just make sure that you know that you do that. Like everybody has their tick or their little errors that present themselves when they get tired. So in your case, that towards the end of the set, you start to lose tension in your upper back. And then when you get to rep 4 and 5, you want to just think like, okay, this is where I tend to round a little bit, or I start to loosen up. So I'm going to try extra hard on these last 2 reps to really exaggerate that chest up position. And, if you think about that, that going in and you remind yourself, then it'll kind of become second nature over time. But overall, your squat's great. And, it's like if I look at someone pulling a heavy set of 5 deadlifts, like I'm going to expect that their back rounds a little bit on the last rep. It's just part of the deal. So don't stress about it too much. Very good work. And thanks for submitting. Let's see if I addressed all your questions in here. Play around with the thumbs around grip if you want. Let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. So thanks for the submission. Okay, moving on. Hey, Paul, I've been doing the starting strength program for 2.5 months and plan to start your intermediate program once I end the novice linear progression. I would like your feedback on my squat. I had previously gotten up to 295, but was getting elbow pain. It started to stall out. I dropped the weight, reread the blue book, adjusted my grip, and my elbow pain went away. Good. I started the weight back up and it's feeling way harder than previously. 33, 6'4", whoa, tall. Okay, 220, 265 on squat, 180 on bench, 120 on press, 380 on deadlift. All right, second set of squats at 265. Let's take a look. Okay. All right. Yeah, you are a tall dude. Okay. Stance looks too wide, but we'll see how that goes. I'm guessing you're going to have a hard time keeping your knees out here. No hip drive. Okay. So these are good because this means if we can fix this stuff, you're going to lift more weight. Little hip drive, but there's a bigger issue here with your back angle. So let's just watch how you lean over on the way down. Okay. We'll do one more. Okay. So, let's go through we'll start with the big stuff. Well, we'll start with the little stuff. Grip looks good. Your stance is too wide. Okay. So we'll see if we can fix that. So this is your start position right here. Let's see if you actually, okay. So your knees are kind of soft here. You can see they're kind of unlocked a little bit. So you want to make sure that you, at the top, knees are locked and you're standing up as straight as you can. You're going to be a little bit leaned forward because of the barbell and the weight on the bar. But you want to make sure definitely that your knees are locked, because your lockout position is home. It's your safety. It's your safe space. So when you get to the top of the rep and you lock your joints out, it's like locking out your arms in a bench press. Like you can sit in lockout with the weight over your chest and on a bench press and just kind of recompose, catch your breath, get ready for the next rep, assuming that you've locked your joints out. If you're locking out your bench press with bent elbows, then you're just burning out your arms. So it's the same concept here. At the top, you want to make sure your knees are locked, okay? Because that way you get to the top, even if you had a really grindy rep, you know, hey, if I can get to the top and I can lock my knees out, I can sit there for 3 or 4 breaths and sort of get my composure back and psych myself up for the next rep. So I think your stance is a little too wide. I would bring it in. The toe angle looks pretty good, but I would probably bring your feet about, I don't know, an inch closer on both sides. Okay, you kind of want your heels right under your shoulders. So it looks to me like this is a little wide. If your stance is too wide, you're going to have a hard time getting your knees out. It's also going to make it harder for you to get depth, because your adductor muscles, your groin muscles are going to stretch to their limit before you break parallel. Okay, so imagine if you just stood with your feet as far apart as you can, you'd only be able to squat down like 2 or 3 inches before your groin tightened up. Conversely, if we put your heels touching, you could squat and touch your ass to the ground and your groin muscles would never tighten out because your stance is so narrow. So in your case, in most people's cases, we want about heels under the shoulders position, and that will put the limit of that adductor stretch right at about an inch below parallel where you want it. Okay, so narrow that a little bit, and let me look at your knee position here and how your knees track. Yeah, so you're doing a lot of so you've got a big focus on sitting back, okay? And that's very common because most of the time when people think about squatting or they read about squatting, they talk about sit back with the hips, reach back with the hips. And that is absolutely an essential part of the lift. But there's another part that most people don't talk about, which is before you sit back, right, you have to get your knees set forward. Okay, so your knee, like your weight is all on your heels here. Okay, and I can tell that because of how, I mean, look at that. Your knee isn't anywhere near your toe. Now, based on your segment length, like it's not always necessary that your knee is, most people's knees are going to line up maybe like right with their toe, maybe slightly in front of their toe. Some people, the knee will be behind the toe, depending on the length of the femurs and stuff like that. You might be one of those guys, but I think your knees need to be way more forward. And so the reason that you're so leaned over here, right, your back angle is like super horizontal, is because you're trying to balance the bar over the middle of your foot here, right? And if all you're thinking about is reaching back with your hips and all your weight basically is going back to the heels, in order for that bar to stay over the middle of the foot, you have to lean way over, okay? And so that's why, I mean, this is the big issue with your squat, is really your back angle. It's continuously becoming more horizontal, right? If you watch a rep and we pay attention to your back angle, you'll see that you keep leaning over the entire way down, right? So watch, you're going to start leaning over and you're just going to keep leaning over and over and over and over. And you're actually never hitting depth. Okay. So I'll try and pause it here right when you kind of turn it around. See that? So you're not, I mean, you're close here, but your ass is still, you haven't hit depth. So the reason that it feels like you're getting low is because you keep leaning over. So the bar is getting lower, right? But what we care about is this hip crease right here, breaking parallel, okay? Dropping below the top of the kneecap here, right? And if you sit back, and then because you're sitting back so much and you didn't get your knees forward, you keep leaning over and over and over. It just feels like the bar, it feels like you're getting deeper because the bar is actually going lower. But at some point, your hips stop moving down and you're just dropping your chest more, okay? So you should not be this leaned over at the bottom of the squat. And the way that you fix that is a couple things. So from the top, yeah, you can even see, I think your hips are even going back on the way up instead of just straight up. So we'll watch, you lean over, everything is about sitting back, and then, yeah, that one wasn't even anywhere close, but you can see that your hips actually travel back and up instead of just straight up. We want your hips to move straight up and down, not back and up. Okay, so the fix for this is, first of all, you probably gotta take a little weight off the bar and you gotta practice. From the top, from this position with a narrower stance, okay? The first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna do two things at once, which is you're gonna lean over a bit and you're gonna shove your knees forward and out, okay? So not just out to the sides, forward over the toes and out. So I'm guessing that let's just say that your knee needs to get right here, maybe like right in line with your toe. So you wanna, as you lean over, shove your knee forward, right? That's a really crappy arrow, but the knees need to go this way, okay? And out at the same time, okay? So forward and out. So you're gonna lean over and knees go forward and out together at the same time. And then so by the time you're about halfway down, okay, let me see here. So by the time you're about here, okay, your knees should be in their final position. They should be right about here, okay? And your back angle here looks more along the lines of what I want, okay? So you're gonna lean over a little bit and you're gonna focus on shoving the knees forward and out. And that's it. So by this point in the squat, when we're here, you should not be leaning over any more than this. You're gonna maintain this back angle here, okay? And this is the point, once you've leaned over, set the back angle, and set the knee position forward and out over the toes, then when you get about halfway down, then you transition to thinking about reaching back with the hips, okay? So you're not, so the thing I always repeat is knees forward and out, hips back and down. Knees forward and out, hips back and down, in that order. Lean over, get your knees set forward and out first, and then at the halfway point, then you start thinking about reaching back with the hips, stretching back, and stretching out those adductor muscles. And that's where, with the narrower stance, it'll let you get deeper, and that's where you're gonna feel that bounce. The reason you don't have any bounce in your squat is because you're not getting to the bottom, right? And the other thing to pay attention to here is the weight on your foot, right? So I've said this a million times, but it's worth repeating, which is paying attention to where you feel the pressure on your foot fixes most of the problems in barbell training, with the exception of the bench press, right? And even then, there's an argument to be made for that. But anything where you're standing on your 2 feet, squat, press, deadlift, if you focus on making sure that the weight on your foot is in the right place, most of the, and then do what you have to do, make your body move in a way that makes that happen, most of the errors go away. And so in your case, you know, the squat, we want mid-foot. And what that feels like is even pressure across the surface of the foot. So there's the pressure on the toes and the pressure on the heels, or the balls of the feet and the heels, even the entire time. So from the moment you start to the moment you get back to the top, if that pressure gradient across the foot is even the whole time, that means you're basically doing the lift correctly, right? Because the bars, you're doing what you have to do to keep the bar over the middle of your foot. if you notice that when you get to the bottom, you've got way more weight on your heels than your toes, it's wrong. Okay? Same thing, if you go to the bottom and you notice that all your weight shifts onto your toes, it's wrong. Okay? And the solution is you fix that, you correct it. So if you just think about feeling the weight on the middle of your foot, right, and keeping it there the entire time, and then moving your body in a way that allows that to happen, this will correct itself. Okay, so I'm going to give you some videos links to watch that are going to help with this. But just to recap, narrow your stance, right? Start the lift by leaning over aggressively, okay, to this back angle right here. So not here, right? Not that leaned over. I want you a little bit less leaned over, but set that right away and then stop leaning over, right? Once you set that angle, the rest of the depth comes from keeping that angle, shoving the knees out, and letting your ass drop straight down and up, okay? Not back, okay? Back is gonna cause you to lean over more. The bar's gonna roll up on your neck. It's a big mess, like as you can tell. So lean over, get the knees set forward and out, and then take it down at the halfway point. Start thinking about reaching back with the hips deep. Find that rebound at the bottom, find that bounce, and then drive your ass up out of the bottom. So homework. Okay, so first thing, I want you to watch 2 videos. One of them is this one of me from 3 years ago when I was a lot skinnier. It's called Let's Get to the Bottom of Your Squat. And in it, I take you through what the knees and the hips, I talk about scissor lifts, and we talk about what the knees and the hips are supposed to be doing, in what order. I explain everything I kind of just explained to you in great detail, so you'll kind of get, with some visual demonstrations, to understand the role of the knees moving forward first and then back, okay? So that's on my Horn Strength channel. Let's get to the bottom of your squat. The other one I want you to watch is my man Steve here, Brussels Barbell, the benefit of the pause squat. He just put this video up like a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Great demonstration and explanation of using pause squats. And this is a good exercise for you. I won't go into too much detail, but basically you're going to take the bar down with lightweight. Don't do 225 like Steve. Do lightweight, empty bar, maybe 95 pounds, maybe 135. Take it down to the bottom, pause in what you think is the bottom position, and count to 3. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and then come back up. And in those 3 seconds, you're checking where the weight of your foot is. Am I on my toes? Am I on my heels? Or am I in the middle? If you're on your heels, rock forward, feel the correction, feel the correct balance, and then come back up. Check that your knees are out as wide as they could be. Check that your chest is arched, your upper back is tight, right? All of those things you can see if you did it at the bottom when you're pausing, and then if you didn't, you can fix it, feel it, and come back up. And then from that point on, your goal with pause squats is it's like a little game you play. Can you go to the bottom and be in the perfect balanced bottom position, tight, without having to make any adjustments, right? And then, so I do these, I say this every week, but I do these literally every squat workout with the empty bar, and then maybe I do a couple reps with the first plate on the bar, just to remind myself what balance feels like. And in your case, you can even, when you go down there with light weight and make sure you're balanced, you can even bounce your hips up and down a little bit. Like just kind of feel the stretch and the natural rebound a few times, like 3 or 4 times, and then catch it and pop up. So it's almost like you're bouncing your butt like a basketball down there, right? And that helps to make sure you feel the stretch reflex, you feel the bounce, and then come back up. So watch that video and then incorporate these into your workout. So this could be, your empty bar sets, your first set with weight. If you have a light squat day, you can do pause squats on light squat day. But I usually just doing it as part of your warm up for a couple sets. And then once you remind yourself what the bottom position feels like, then you can start going back to just a normal cadence. Okay. So check out those 2 videos, work through that stuff, and narrow your stance and work on the knee position, getting the knees further forward. And I think you'll be in good shape. Work on it. post another video and we'll check it out in a week or two, man. So thank you for posting, and I hope that helps. Let's move on. We got Dick the deadlift guy. All right. We've been talking to Dick online about mental stuff with the deadlift. He's been kind of struggling to work through deadlift. So here we are again. Thanks for the form check and advice last week. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't gutted about having to reset a bit and work on form. I know, man. I'm sorry. It happens to all of us, but I'm in it for the long game. Okay. I did manage 5 reps at 180 kilograms. Great. Last Friday, but reviewed my form and I'm suffering from similar backgrounding. So I'm posting my second set from Monday. I did some extra warm-ups to practice the pause squat and then backed off my work set to 140 kilograms, but trying a normal rep. I think this is my best set. It still felt a little awkward as I'm getting used to the change in form, but from watching it seems like I'm okay on the descent, but my back is still rounding on the ascent. I also think it might be slightly overextending the lumbar spine, not enough thoracic. Okay, let's take a look and see how Dick's doing. Alrighty. Okay, kill the volume. Dick in the dungeon. Here we go. Okay. Stance looks good. Head looks good. Bar looks good. Okay. Okay, well, your head's moving again. So I want this head position right here the whole time. Right there. You're getting out of your hips a little early here. Yeah, okay. Let me watch a few of these before I dive in. Okay. So you're getting out of your hips too soon. Okay, so I can see the corrections you're making. Good job. But we got to dial it in a little more. So part of the thing, it looks like on the early reps, you're trying to stay a little bit too vertical on the way down. So you're going to tighten up your upper back. Let's see. Good. And then you're kind of trying to be a little too upright. I'd like you to lean over a little bit more right away. Yeah. And again, when you lift your head like that, you're going to lift your chest and you're going to kill your hip drive. So you can see, let me see if I can pause one here. I mean, your depth is fantastic. I mean, it's probably even a little too deep here, but you could be leaned over more. So your back angle, is kind of like this. I'd like to see a little bit more like that, like a little bit more horizontal. And that'll actually bring up the depth. So the fact that you're getting a little too deep, it's almost like you're doing a high bar squat and you're trying to stay upright. And if you lean over a little bit more, your hips stretch back more and it'll tighten up the groin muscles a little bit higher into the rep. So you won't have, if you lean over just a tad more, the depth issue of going a little deeper than you need to will go away because like I said, your groin muscles will tighten up a little sooner. Now, from this position, what I want to see is your butt move first. Okay. So if I'm watching this, I want to see a 2 or 3 degree change in back angle that starts at the hips, that it shows me you initiated the drive with the hips. And then that back angle is going to stick. It's going to stay constant until you get all the way back up to the top. Let's see what happens. That one actually wasn't too bad. Let me see. We'll watch another one. Yeah, that one you can see you're lifting your chest right away. Okay, so good work. We're getting there. Let's talk about what to fix here. So first of all, I want you to clean up the resetting process in between reps. I want you, as you take your breath, I want you to tighten up your chest. Right now, it looks like you're breathing and then you're arching. Make that one motion. Just breathe, like you're filling your lungs up and, you know, arching your back at the same time. So it's not two separate things, okay? And then you got to dive for the floor, man. Like just nipples down. So right away, all you're trying to do is think about stamping your belly button right here, right between your legs right here, okay? So I want you to think about, you're standing up, here's your belly button, and you're gonna put it right between your feet. Like if your feet are like this, I want you to touch it right here, okay? And in order to do that, you gotta angle your tummy, your belly button, at like right between your feet, okay? So you gotta lean over way more right away. So you're gonna dive for the floor and you're gonna shove your thighs out of the way. That's part one. Just commit to getting leaned over and push and moving and just making room. Just lean over, shove your knees out. That's it. And then hang on to that leaned over position, right? As long as you can, okay? And really, I think that's gonna be the big fix here is you just need to get a little bit more horizontal right away. And then, you're fighting to lean over. You're like, you're focused on the knees, which is good because you got to get them forward and out. But you have to do those two things at the same time, because if you push your knees out and then lean over later, the knees come back. So it has to all be done at the same time. So you should be way more leaned over by now in this position. Okay, I mean I want you like here by now. Okay, and you're like upright like that. So let's see. We'll keep going. And then it's like a little hip drive, like a tiny bit, and then you start lifting your chest right away. Like, and you can even see your head moving too. So you've got to be more leaned over, and then you've got to stay leaned over at the top on the way up. Once you lean over at the top, you don't raise your chest again until you get back to that point that you leaned over at the top in the first place. Okay, so that back angle, it's over and it's fixed all the way down, all the way up until you get back to the point where you set it at the top, and then you can finish by standing up. Okay, so set your chest up, you know, a little bit cleaner when you take your breath. That's easy one. Commit to getting more horizontal right away. Hang on to that back angle. Drive your butt up and stay the hell leaned over as long as you can, right? Stay leaned over longer into the rep into the ascent, and then stand up at the top. Lean over, stay leaned over. That's it, man. If you do that, these will be like a million times better, okay? So it's gonna feel a little awkward committing to getting your back angle that horizontal so quickly because you're not used to it, but that's the deal, and that's what you got to do. Okay, let's keep going. Post another one up, and we'll keep dialing it in. All right, Thomas. Okay, finally got to the gym at a time when there was room for a tripod in the bench area. Okay, cool. Bench press. All right, background. Ran linear progression for a while, 3-day Texas method for a while, and have been on a 4-day Texas version of the Texas method for about a year. At the end of this block, I'll be transitioning to your short and sweet routine. 38-year-old male. All right, bench is 235 for 2 sets of 3. Hopefully that's what you mean. Let's see. All right. Can we make this bigger? I'm afraid to hit this button. What if there we go. Okay. Okay. All right. So the lecture that I'm going to give you, which is what I give everybody, is the first thing I always notice with the bench press: take the collars off the bar. Unless you have a stupid gym that requires you to collar the bench press, it's very dangerous to have collars on the bar. Obviously, you're in a gym with other people. And if something bad were to happen, it's likely someone could come and help you. It's more about getting in the habit of not putting collars on the bar, so that if you happen to be alone, if you happen to be in your basement, traveling at a gym where like you're the only guy in there and you just always collar the bench press, and so you collared it and you forgot, and then you get stuck and it comes down on your throat. If you don't have collars on the bar, you can roll to one side, all the plates slide off, you roll to the other side, all the plates slide off, you make a big mess, you survive. If you've collared the bar, you ain't getting out of that thing without a fight. And this is the only lift that has the potential to kill you. And it can, if you collar it and get in a precarious position and can't get it off your neck, you're going to suffocate. So do not ever collar the bar. Just don't get in the habit of doing it. So that one time where you are kind of in a new location or something, you just know that you never do it and you don't get into trouble. Okay. Rant over, but it's important. I don't want you to die. Okay. Bench press wise, let's start with your feet look good. I like the fact that they're pulled back. I usually tell guys to walk your feet back under your butt this way until you feel your heels start to lift up about an inch. So you just keep scooting your foot back until your heels kind of lift up about an inch off the ground, and then shove the heels down. And by pushing down like that, it really tightens up the quads. So that looks good. Let's look at your arch. It looks pretty good. See you get into the start position. Okay. And then from here, we'll watch. So, all right. So I want you to clean this up a little bit. So when you take it out of the rack and you get it into the correct start position, you're going to do three things. If I can remember this, you're going to do three things before you start lowering the bar. Okay. So you're going to get yourself all tight and kind of where you want it. But then the act of unracking the bar is going to loosen some things up. So you don't want to unrack it and then go right into the rep. You're not doing that. But once you have it balanced over your shoulder joint and in the position that you want, you're going to do three things. Take a big breath. Okay. So deep breath in. You're going to puff your chest up and pull your shoulder blades back. So let me see if I can do this here. So if I'm here, right, I'm locked out on the bench press. I'm going to take a big breath, and then I'm going to arch and and pull my shoulder blades together like that. Okay. In, right? Not up like this. In. So I'm arching my chest up and I'm retracting my scapula like that. Okay. And that creates this flat spot where my scapula pull together. That's what's going to take the weight. Okay, so big breath, chest up, shoulders back, right? And then I'm going to make sure that I'm pushing with the legs. I'm pushing with my quads up onto that flat spot that I'm creating by pulling my shoulder blades together. So you're not pushing your ass up off the bench, you're pushing towards your head. Okay, now, if you pull your feet back far enough, like I talked about earlier, and wedge your heels down on the ground, the advantage of that is the quads are sort of always engaged because they're pulled back so far that your lower half is just tight, you're locked in, you're rigid on the bench. Bench is all about stability. The tighter you can wedge yourself onto that bench, and just have tension from your legs to your shoulders, then you don't have to worry about wobbling around on the bench. You're stable. And then all you have to do is think about moving the bar up and down with your elbows. So if you have pulled your feet back far enough and wedged them down, you don't really have to think about pushing with the legs. So you only have to think about two things between every rep. Big breath, chest up, shoulders back, right? And then once you're in this position, right, and you're locked in, then you're going to lower the bar down and up. Now, your scapula will come out at the top of the rep, right, to finish the rep. So before you go again, big breath, chest up, shoulders back, and then down and up. Okay, so every rep, you're locked out here. Your elbows are locked, so you can hang out and take a couple breaths and take the time to reset that start position. And it's going to make the whole thing more efficient. If you rush from one rep to the next, it's going to be sloppy. So that's the first part of the fix here is dialing in that start position. Every single rep, every one. Breath, chest up, shoulders back, legs pushing. Good, go, down and up. Reset for the next rep. Chest up, shoulders back, legs pushing, down and up, okay? Breathing happens before you move the bar. I don't want you trying to take your breath as you're lowering the bar. Too many guys do this. You're gonna have a power leak that way. You can't get a good breath. Take it before. And then everything is it's just robotic because you're so tight and locked in there that it's just gonna feel a lot more efficient when your breath is finished before you start lowering the bar. I can't really hear or see when you're taking your breath. I'm just telling you what I want. Okay, now, the second part of this with you is the speed with which you are lowering the bar. Do not let the bar fall because you have all this momentum. In order to let the bar drop as quickly as you're letting it drop, you have to loosen up. And if you loosen up, you can't get tight again, right? You've loosened the muscles. There's no more tension. It's gonna bounce. You're using your rib cage as like as a springboard, and then you've got to tighten up again. Okay, so that's not what you want. Instead, you want to lower the bar under control, like slow and controlled on the way down, almost like the old powerlifter thing is they talk about. Imagine pulling the bar apart, like stretching the metal or bending the metal as you come down. Okay, so if you watch how fast this bar moves, it just like drops onto your rib cage and then springs up. That's not the stretch reflex. You don't get the stretch reflex from bouncing it off your bones. Okay, that like right there. Like you're using your torso to bounce the bar. The stretch reflex, just like the squat, comes from stretched out from the muscles hitting the limit of their stretch, of their ability to their range of motion. So in this case, it's like the pecs. It's not like the pecs, it's the pecs. So as the pecs stretch out at the bottom, then that's where that rebound's gonna come from. So the other thing is, I think you're touching a little bit too low on your chest. So I would let's see where you do this. Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like you're about 2 inches above your belt, like way down here. Okay, so bench is here, like it's the base of your sternum. Okay, if you bring it all the way down there, right, you've got all this distance between that the bar's traveling between where you're touching and it's also going to shorten the range of motion, right? Because the elbow travel is going to be shortened bringing it down here versus bringing it, if you're coming down and touching up here, your elbow is going to travel way back here. But if I'm only coming down to here, like, and touching down here, then if you see how far my elbow travels back, it's way more back here. So this is more of like a powerlifting style bench press where you can, because you have a gut, you can shorten the range of motion, and that's okay if you're trying to win a powerlifting meet. But this is one of the reasons why the bench press is kind of shitty for actually developing your pecs, because lifting, like doing a powerlifting style bench press with like a wide grip and a shorter range and using strategies to shorten the range of motion, touching, like arching up and touching your belly, you are reducing the effective range of motion of the lift and the stress on the muscle. And so while you can lift more weight, it's not the best way to actually get your muscles stronger. With that, you want to take the weight through the longest range of motion you can. I would recommend that you bring your target up to here. Okay, so maybe like just right below the nipple at the base of your sternum, and that will give you an increased range of motion, and it'll be better stimulus for your pecs. Okay, again, avoid using the mechanical rebound off your gut to create the stretch reflex. You use the stretch reflex from the actual stretched out muscles, and slow down the descent, right? You want to think slow and controlled on the way down, fast on the way up, okay? Ripito used to say, imagine that you have a piece of glass sitting here, on your, and you can touch it, but you can't break it. So if you just slam the bar into your ribs, you're going to smash that glass. Instead, you want to control it down, right? You're pulling everything apart and then maximum stretch down here, a little tap, and then you fire it up. Okay. So work on that stuff. You may have to take some weight off the bar, definitely take the collars off the bar. And I think you're going to feel like, it depends what you're going for. You know, if you're going for, I want to lift the most weight possible for a powerlifting meet, then maybe you can play around with a powerlifting style bench, but it's not going to be good for developing those muscles or aesthetics. So it's either way, you're going to do better if you use a longer range of motion. So touch a little higher and then get that reset pattern between each rep. Deep breath, chest up, shoulders back. Okay, legs engaged. Okay, good. Bring the bar down. And then when you lock it out, go through that again every time. Once you get proficient with that, you might squeeze out 2 or 3 reps on one breath if you want to, but I always have my guys take their time between and reset every rep of every exercise for a while until they get used to it. So hope that helps. I think you had one more video, and since we got about 10 minutes left, let's take a look at it. So this is squat and 305. Why not? We're here. I do need water though. All right, let's get this thing to load. You still haven't gotten weightlifting shoes. I think you're the guy. All right. How do I kill this? Where's the volume? All right. Let's see here. Get weightlifting shoes. You wouldn't be doing all this messing around if you had them on. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, let me watch this again. There's a lot going on here. I think the bar looks a little high on your back. Let me see if I can pause it and catch it at the bottom. That might be in the right place. It might be a tad high. Can't really tell from this angle, but okay, so same deal here, man. Like, okay, there's a lot. First of all, same thing, right? Every rep of every exercise gets the full attention of a going through the reset. If you rush from one rep to the next rep, the first rep will be okay, and then they're just going to get progressively sloppier because you're not taking the time to reestablish the proper start position. And if the start position's wrong, the whole thing's going to be wrong. So you're just going from one rep into the next, and then you just have all these new errors that present themselves because you didn't take time to get yourself back into the correct starting position. So just like we talked about with the bench press, get to the top of the rep, lock your knees out, right? Your knees look like they're still unlocked. And that means you can't take a break, right? You're just gassing out your quads and you know, standing there. So you just want to rush right into the next rep. Things are loose and it just devolves from there. I really think that bar needs to come down about an inch on your back. So let me just say that. I think if you move the bar down about an inch, you're going to feel another shelf down there that it'll sit on, like right in that little divot on my back. Okay. So see if you can lower that bar just a little bit, maybe to like right there. That's kind of a crappy line, but just needs to come down about another inch, I think. Okay, so you're messing around a lot with your feet, right? Because you can't find the right balance. This is why weightlifting shoes are important, because they make you feel like you're bolted to the floor, right? They're very flat, very stable. So right now you're rocking around on your foot on that rubber, trying to like find some sense of balance. And I'm telling you, if you put weightlifting shoes on, it's going to fix a lot of these issues right away. So it's worth it. Okay. Let me look at your feet. I suspect that your stance is okay. Your toes might need to be turned out a little bit more. You want about 30 to 40 degrees, heels right underneath the shoulders. Okay, so you might need to widen your stance a tiny bit. I'm not really sure, but you definitely need to push your toe angle out a little bit more. All right, and again, you got soft knees right here. So we want to make sure that you're at the top, knees are locked, you're stable. This is home base. If you get to the top of the squat and you lock out, you're good to go, right? You can sit there for 3 or 4 breaths and not gas your legs. Okay, so if you watch your knees here, first of all, there's so many things happening. No pause at the bottom, right? The bottom is a bounce. Okay, so if you go down to the bottom and pause, you kill that bounce. This is another reason why I suspect that your feet or at least your toes aren't pointed out enough, because, well, your depth looks pretty good there. Yeah, but I still think you need to turn your toes out a little bit more. Now, watch your knees on the entire way down here. Okay, just pay attention. See how they slide forward all the way down? So again, and we're losing the back angle on the way up. Okay. So just like I talked about with the other form check, right? From the top, here's the order of things. You're standing straight up, your knees are locked. The first thing that happens when you squat, 2 things at the same time. You lean over a lot. Okay, you point your nipples at the ground. Don't try and stay upright. Lean over, and at the same time you lean over, your knees go forward and out, okay? Not just out, forward and out. So this is typical knee slide. And if I pause it, where your knees end up, okay, here's like roughly the halfway point, and you see where your knee is right here. Oops, that was like a curvy line. Let me see if I can get a better thing. Okay, we're like, kind of like right here, like kind of lined up with your toe right here. Okay, your knee, and then if I play it, so your knee is basically right at this M right here. Oops, shit. All right, we'll do this again. All right, so we're gonna walk it out. All right, so where I paused it before, by about the halfway point, here we go. Okay, it's a little early, but whatever. So your knee around the halfway point is basically on this M right here, okay? By this point in the squat, your knee needs to be where it is going to be at the bottom, okay? So that, like I said at the top, you lean over and you shove your knees forward and out. Forward means to the place that they will be at the bottom of the squat. So if we go down to your bottom position and pause it, now look at where your knees are, okay? Now they're like at the A. That was a bad line, but you can see they've slid past the M to the A on this rack, okay? So by the halfway point, they were not set. This is where, if this is balance for you at the bottom, if you go to the bottom and you balance yourself down there, right? And your knees are, an inch in front of your toe, then that's where they have to be by the time you're halfway down. And if you don't put them there early enough, they will slide there. They will slide there as you go to the bottom, or you're gonna fall over, okay? So what's happening is you're focused, just like the last guy, like earlier in this form check video, you're focused on sitting back. You're focused on reaching back with the hips. You're staying too upright, and all you wanna do is sit back. Well, the knees have to go forward. They have to get to that point, or you're not gonna be balanced. So as you approach the bottom, they're gonna pull you forward, and now your weight is going this way. You're going down and forward, and that's gonna mess everything else up. It's gonna kill your hip drive. You're gonna wanna lift your chest too soon so you get the bar back over the middle of your foot because it bounced forward. All of these problems are an issue with weight on the middle of your foot. So get weightlifting shoes and then work on, so I'm gonna tell you this exact same thing that I told the other guy earlier in the video, which is you're gonna watch 2 videos, 2 homework assignments. One is, in case you're just skipping ahead to your own form check, this video of me back in the day, a couple years ago, called Let's Get to the Bottom of Your Squat. It's where I take you through knee slide, what the knees are supposed to do, in what order, what happens to the adductor muscles, right? It's a very in-depth video where I explain the role of the knees in the squat. So watch that. Again, let's get to the bottom of your squats on my YouTube channel. And then you're gonna work on pause squats. So again, the video from Steve at Brussels Barbell did this great video about pause squats, how to use them. You go to the bottom, you count to 3, you pause down there, and you familiarize yourself with the start position. So I explained a little bit more about how pause squats work in the first form check. But watch this video too and play around incorporating some pause squats into your workout with the empty bar and with your light warm-ups, okay? To familiarize yourself with what it feels like to be balanced in the bottom position, okay? And once you can go to the bottom on every rep and be perfectly balanced with the weight over the middle of your foot, everything else will fix itself, okay? For the most part. So work on those two things, watch those videos, and get some freaking weightlifting shoes. And then take some weight off the bar so you can do a moderate set of 5 to practice. And then let's check out another video in a week or two, and we'll keep trying to dial it in, man. Okay? Thank you for submitting. I think we got to everybody today. Yes, we did. All right. So thanks, guys. And we'll do it all again in a week. All right? You guys are awesome. See you soon.